Hi guys, it's Mandy from Mandyleeplays, and in this video, I'm going to share with you all the JRPGs or RPGs that got a power up just for being on the Switch 2. Now, this is not a new thing. I've seen people report on a lot of games that run better just by being there, but I wanted to do my own little research. So I got curious and popped in a lot of JRPGs, and yeah, some run just different. Though I do want to mention a few ground rules. Number 1, subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed, then like if you end up liking the video. Okay, that's not the rule. Rule 1, the game has to boost in a significant way, like 30 FPS to 60 FPS, maybe the graphics are more better, stuff like that. And for this video, I'm talking mainly games that do not include an upgrade pack, just games that got a Switch 2 update. And I also want to mention, I am not an expert in this at all. I'm not Digital Foundry. I don't do nitty-gritty technical speak, so if I get something wrong, please correct me in the comments. Alrighty, now on to the first game, and in my opinion, the most glow-up game I've seen on the Switch 2, and that is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet for the Switch 2 feels like a completely different Pokemon game, and I'm just like, wait, that's not fair. I should have played it for the first time on the Switch 2, but hey, hindsight is 2020. I didn't know. The Switch 2 does make it run better and feel better, but my gripes with Pokemon and their more modern games are still there, and honestly, I don't even think they could change that in a patch. Also, Nintendo themselves advertised how good Pokemon Scarlet and Violet run on the Switch 2, which is kind of weird because you're advertising the fact that the previous game was so buggy and stuff, and now you're showing it off like, oh, look, if you get the Switch 2, you could have a better Pokemon experience. I don't know, that's kind of weird advertising for me because it's basically admitting that the game was flawed, but that's besides the point. So I popped in my copy of Pokemon Violet, and yeah, it's like night and day. It's a completely different experience, like playing it. The graphics are still kind of mushy and it looks like Play-Doh, but everything, especially the feel, is so much better. And honestly, there is no point in rehashing how much I don't like Scarlet and Violet, and I still don't like Scarlet and Violet, but man, did it get a boost. While I think, yes, the Switch 2 is more powerful than the Switch 1, they still could have made it work on the Switch 1. I don't see why they couldn't. They just needed to optimize the game a little bit better. But hey, if you were there in the trenches while we were playing Scarlet and Violet, like me, then you're a real one. From the glitches to the frame drops everywhere, it was clearly an unfinished game. The game noticeably looks better than the Switch 1 counterpart. It no longer uses the reported 720p. Instead, with the Switch 2, it got a boost in resolution to 1080p. And man, do you see the difference. And you can also tell that some textures got a bit of a boost as well. Look how detailed Larry's suit is. But not only that, there seems to be a lot more Pokemon on the field at once, without, you know, the frame rate tanking as fast as the Titanic. Speaking of the frame rate, that is one of the biggest changes to this upgrade, because Scarlet and Violet now runs at 60 FPS. Yes, baby, we got a 60 FPS Pokemon game. Finally, it took us a while to get there, but here it is. It's like almost everything improved across the board once they have that 60 FPS. I cannot stress to you how important FPS is to a video game. And while a lot of you state that you can't see it, it is certainly something that you could feel when you play the game. It makes it more smoother and better as an experience. For example, the one thing that really caught my eye is the Terror Raid battles. They look so much better and run so much better. Editing Mandy here, I would also like to add that going through the Pokédex is way more smoother. This is what a more powerful console does to a game. And I've seen a lot of people who back then were saying, oh, it's not about the graphics or the performance, it's about Pokemon, are now praising the upgrade on the Switch 2. And I'm just like, what happened to it's all about the Pokemon, I know, I'm being petty, but it's for real. A lot of people downplay the actual experience when it comes to graphics and performance. And listen, I will give praise where praise is due. I'm glad that Game Freak and Nintendo didn't charge for the upgrade. And there's also a silver lining in all this mess, mainly being that future Pokemon games will probably run better on the Switch 2, so we don't get like a Scarlet and Violet mess in the future, hopefully. And we did get a glimpse of that with Pokemon ZA. The next game is Raidou Remastered. This one's a bit different, mainly because there is a Switch 2 copy of the game. I just didn't get the copy because it was a key card, and I don't like key cards, so I got the Switch 1 variant. And while the game doesn't have an upgrade pack, it does run differently if you have a Switch 1 copy of the game on the Switch 2. I documented all the resolution and frame rates in my Raidou Before You already buy, so check that out if you're interested. But I did not account for the Switch 1 version running on the Switch 2, mainly because I didn't really have a lot of info at the time. But yes, when you pop it into the Switch 2, it runs at 60 FPS. So yay, we get the bare minimum, woo! Okay, I was being cheeky. And I did pop Raidou on my original OLED, and yeah, it does run at 30 sometimes. The frame rate is very all over the place. So the Switch 1 version is probably not the best version of the game for the Switch 1. But when you pop that puppy onto the Switch 2, it's completely different. Wow, this is probably gonna be something I have to explain at least in the first year of the Switch's 2 lifespan. But if you don't like key cards and don't really mind, then I highly recommend the Switch 1 copy on the Switch 2. If you want to see all this in action, I do have live streams for Raidou, so check those out. Now the next game is one I'm pretty excited for because I love this series to death, and that being the Nintendo Warriors games. These are not necessarily a JRPG in the traditional sense, but they're one of my favorite games to just chill and whack people like a wet paper napkin. It is so fun. Now I would have done it for other Warriors games, but some of them are 60 FPS on the Switch 1, funny enough. For example, Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition and Fire Emblem Warriors. And while Age of Calamity got a bit of an upgrade, it is still 30 FPS, it's just more stable. But I was very excited when I popped in 3 Hopes and it ran at 60. I was just like, oh my god, this runs so nice. In the original game, whether it be in the battles or the campgrounds, the FPS was really all over the place. And while initially I didn't really mind because I love Warriors games and I still played the heck out of it, I couldn't give it the seal of approval that I did with Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition because of the frame rate and how it feels really clunky. And when I was doing my research, I found out that 3 Hopes had an unlocked frame rate on the Switch 1, so that's why it was all over the place. So if you guys don't know, Warrior games are basically a game where you just beat up a bunch of enemies on the map, and having that smooth feel is very important to this, especially when there's a lot of enemies on the map. And although I loved 3 Hopes, I am glad that it's getting the FPS change. But anyways, I'm just happy that we get another Nintendo Warriors game that's gonna run at 60. Another noticeable improvement is the image quality. Like all the others that came before it, it has a very crisp look to it, mostly because 3 Hopes uses dynamic resolution. Also, it is noticeable that the loading times are way shorter. This is one of those cases like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet where the entire feel of the game is different. And because of how it's running on the Switch 2, this gives me a very good degree of hope that Age of Imprisonment will also run at 60 FPS. And we could hopefully ditch the whole Age of Frame Rate meme and have a nice, smooth experience with the next game. That being if Koei Tecmo doesn't fumble the bag, so let's hope for that. So for the next game is a game that came out really early in the Switch's lifespan, and a lot of you might have forgotten it, but I still wanted to include it, and that is Monster Hunter Stories 2. I'm pretty bummed out that Monster Hunter Rise didn't get any upgrades at all. A game like that would be fantastic at 60 FPS. I don't know why they haven't done that, but beggars can't be choosers. But anyways, back to Monster Hunter Stories 2. To me, this game still looked fantastic on the Switch 1, so I was really surprised when I heard that Monster Hunter Stories 2 gets an upgrade for the Switch 2, so I had to play it myself. And yes, it does run a bit smoother. It doesn't necessarily have a lot of upgrades, but it just flows well. Although it isn't as drastic as Pokemon, it is still pretty nice. I would love for Capcom to release some additional DLC or something to reap the rewards of that power-up to make people play it again. I don't think they're gonna do that, but it would be nice if they did. And also, it would be nice if they did that for Monster Hunter Rise. That would be amazing. The Monster Hunter story games are basically a RPG version of the Monster Hunter games, where you go on an adventure with your little monsties. It's really, really good. I loved it. And I loved the first one too. The next game is Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle. This is gonna be the shortest entry in this list, mainly because it doesn't have a significant update, but Kingdom Battle still got something, mainly being the frame rate, and on the Switch 1, it is locked at 30 FPS, as you would expect from any Switch 1 game. Editing Mandy here, sorry for the intrusion, but I found out in the recording, I said that it runs at 30 FPS even on the Switch 2, but what I meant to say is it runs 60 FPS on the Switch 2. And it's weird because it was one of the games Nintendo advertised as a updated backwards compatibility game on the Switch 2, but it really didn't get any big updates. Alrighty, now on to one of the games that I really love. It's one of my fave early Switch games, and that is Dragon Quest Builders 2. I love that game so much. Every time I go play it, I really get addicted to it, but I had to test it on the Switch too. The original game for the Switch 1 was locked on 30 FPS, and it was a bit dodgy too, especially when you made bigger structures or tried to make a lot of things at the same time. It's kind of like how when you have an Animal Crossing island that has a lot of stuff in it, it will start to lag. Yeah, that happened a lot with Dragon Quest Builders 2. But I honestly powered through it, and it's still one of my favorite games. It's just like every other game on this list, runs way better on the Switch 2. And also, faster loading screen. So I love to see one of my favorite games get a little bit of an upgrade. And I might take the opportunity to finally finish up my Mega Mansion. I've been working on that mansion for years. Next is a game that I honestly need to finish because I started it, but then I put it down for a long time. So I might as well just play it again. And that is for Neo: The World Ends With You. Now this is a sequel to The World Ends With You, also on the Switch, but it didn't get an update. But Neo: The World Ends With You did get an update. The first major change is try to guess what they updated. Ding ding ding, you're probably right, because Neo: The World Ends With You for the Switch 2 runs at 60 FPS now, which is a huge deal, mainly being that the game is an action type of game, so it will benefit greatly with 60 FPS. The resolution also got a bit of a boost. Overall, it's a very nice update, and it does make me a little bit motivated to play the game and actually beat it. So even though the World Ends With You series is kind of going through a lot, it was a good move by Square to update for the Switch 2. So those were some of the games that run really good on the Switch 2. There's obviously way more games. This is not just a JRPG thing. A lot of other games in different genres are getting a bit of a boost because the Switch 2 is more powerful than the Switch 1. It's absolutely wild what a more beefier system could actually do. And with that, let me know any games that you've noticed that got a bit of an update when it comes to the Switch 2. Is there something I'm missing? Please let me know. If you like this video, then hit that like button, would appreciate it. And if you like my channel and would love to see more, then please consider subscribing. I'm trying to get to 10K by the end of the year. I hope we could do it. You can follow me on my socials in the description down below. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and as always, play a good game. Peace.